Oh, Gordon Dundas.
How are we?
Well, you said you would go to the ball, and you said I might have to take a couple of mice and some pumpkins, but I didn't realise it was that Cinderella.
Yes, it was that Cinderella, and yeah, that's we'll come back onto that. It's a heck of a trip. That. How are you?
Very good, Gordon. I don't know if you want to have a small dram. I think we should before we start.
I do. Yes, I do. So I've got in my hand here a blended malt. I'm going to come back onto this because there's something very relevant about this at the moment, and the sort of naming categories within Scotch whisky. But I have a sherry cask matured blended malt. This is got two legendary names on it. If I said the names Doug McIver and Ronnie Cox to you,
yes.
Do you know who that might be? Who makes this blended malt?
I think we might be down to the St James's place in London, Berry Brothers and Rudd, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely. So Doug McIver and the legendary Ding Dong Ronnie Cox. This is a beautiful blended malt. It doesn't really, obviously, because it doesn't tell you where it's from. It doesn't tell because it's a blended malt, obviously. But the one thing that you notice about this, 44.2%, beautiful whiskey, 25 £25 on Amazon it was.
Ah, that is an absolute
it's an absolute belter. But we'll come on and once you're telling us who you're drinking, but we'll come back and talk a little bit about whiskey categories, which are of the moment for another reason.
Okay, I also think that's quite nice about where you source whiskey from. You just mentioned an online seller, so a lot of people do auctions, and a lot of people have bought this whiskey I'm holding in my hand in auction, and we are going to hear from that whiskey festival on the good ship Cinderella, which I alluded to at the beginning, and we're going to hear from Mr. Finnwhisky, Juhis Virkola, and he gave me this little liquid, the Glengoyne 17-year-old.
Oh, the 17.
Quite nice. Now, we've talked about this before.
We have.
Some people talk about this being and I'm going to pour it as we talk, being the best Glengoyne ever. But you've got a really good line in that.
I do. And look, I've tasted it. It's fabulous. Don't get me wrong. I think the Glengoyne 18 is my favorite of the two. The 17 has that slightly tropical note, I think, coming through, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It is lovely. As you say, people's memory of it sometimes more.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think you've got things like, you've got things. It's a bit like, I take the fishing analogy. Generally, you don't remember whiskies when you're nosing them in a class, particularly as you might think it's an amazing whiskey, but whiskey takes you on a journey when you're in a social environment with friends, etc., etc. And it's a bit like, when you were 10, you caught a fish, 3 inches, 4 inches long. By the time you're 30, it was a foot long. There's an element of that goes on with this. And look, the Glengoyne 17 is a great whiskey, but I think what we're producing at Glengoyne now is as good, if not better, in some of the whiskies. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. But it is undoubtedly a cracking dram. 43%, lovely tropical notes coming into it. And one to pick up on auction.
That's exactly it. I believe there was quite a few put up to auction. I think somebody that had quite a lot of them released them, and that brought the price down a little bit. So these drams have been discontinued. There's another great debate for another day, Gordon.
And while we're talking about auctions, what I have noticed in the last few months is that a lot of auction prices have softened a little bit because of obviously a whole load of different things that are going on in the world. But I think something to be really aware of is that, go onto an auction site, put your maximum budget in, add £10 just to give you a bit more, the upselling. Upsell yourself. I only want to spend 50. I'll put in 60. 60 to 20 quid. Search, and you'd be surprised what you would find in that sort of region. Some great whiskies there that are not collectible per se, but if you just want to buy whiskey to drink it and to enjoy it, there's some great drams in that sort of area. So I
think that's something really to get into. It's a great topic for another show, Gordon.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some of the ones that maybe not on the shelves of your supermarket or your shop, you can pick up something unusual, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
So, Gordon, in the news, I suppose we're recording this late March 2023, and we've had the Chancellor's budget. We don't get into too many heavy things here, but the whole industry is up in arms about the tax increase that the Chancellor in the UK has levelled on spirits. I think it's 10.1%, the biggest increase since the early 1980s, and that will put whiskey up more, along with the cost of living and the energy crisis that's adding more to the bottom line. So,
well, I mean, it's disappointing for sure. Disappointing for sure, considering what's going on all the other aspects of hitting the consumer, as well as the prices for us to make whiskey. I mean, it has been held for many, many years, and I would hope that that would have continued to be the case to support the Scotch whisky industry and spirits industry through this difficult time at the moment. But there's not much I don't think we can do about it, unfortunately.
No.
So
just that, it's maybe going to help or hinder, I should say, investment into the industry.
Could well do. Yeah, no, could well do. It's a bit of an odd thing to tax people more on, I think, at this really strange, if I'm honest. And I think the higher you go up, the less impact it has, obviously. But at that lower end, where a lot of people are playing in terms of supermarket whiskies and things like that, I'm afraid that's prices are going to go a little bit north, which is a shame. But when you consider how much duty there is on a litre, I mean, it's something like 70 odd percent goes to the government already. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Taxation, there's another topic again for another day, but that's you hitting on it, Gordon. It's end of March. Do we doff the cap to International Whisky Day, 27th of March?
Absolutely. So that's in about 4 days, International Whisky Day. We mention this every year, I think, which is great. It's really to celebrate the late great Michael Jackson. Started in the Whiskey Festival in Groningen, which is in northern Netherlands. And International Whisky Day is really much to support whiskey from that perspective, very much in the sort of memory of Michael Jackson. That's coming up. And then there's obviously World Whisky Day, which was started by Mr. Blair Bowman, which is another opportunity to celebrate whiskey. But actually, every day should be a World Whisky Day. Yeah,
and I was going to do a whole section on different days of beverages, and I clicked on it and I realised there was a National Crouton Day. I thought, listen, forget this idea. Let's just move on. But
there's not.
There is a National Crouton Day, but the Whiskey International one, and so that's March 27th. And Gordon, another part of the news. Last week, I went up to the Isle of Skye to do some filming with some of our brands, and took a couple of books and a magazine with me. The first book I took with me was Malt Whisky Yearbook 2023. I opened the page, and there you were.
Really?
I opened another page, and there you were again, with Malcolm Rennie of Rosebank and Leonard Russell.
What year was that?
The current one, 2023. Giving it twice. And then...
Have I got a copy of that?
I took up the Whisky magazine, February, March. I thought, just a bit of light reading. I opened up a page. I saw, there's a cigar malt thing. There's Ian Fortieth of Angus Dundee. And here's a quote by Gordon Dundas. We'd not get away from you.
Really?
Explain, Gordon.
I don't remember any of this.
You were
that's brilliant.
It was all about cigar malts. The magazine was all about cigar malts.
That's the latest whiskey magazine, is it?
Yes.
Very good. Very, 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 very authoritative magazine on whiskey. Used to work for them, obviously.
Gordon Dundas, brand development manager for Ian MacLeod Distillers, is quick to step in with a caveat. Let's be clear. You don't need to smoke a cigar to enjoy the cigar malt.
Hey! There you go. Insightful as ever. Oh, yeah. You can rely on me. Insightful as ever. What else has caught your eye? Something caught my eye recently, and it was a new release from Bruichladdich.
Oh.
Now, Bruichladdich, I love what Bruichladdich do. I think they do some really, really good things. They've just brought out now this is the thing, coming back to what I was talking about categories of whiskey and the names of them, right? So let's start. If I said to you single malt, Gordon, what is a single malt?
Yeah.
What is it?
It would be whiskey that has been from this one distillery. Single malt made from barley, malted barley from the one distillery.
So 100% malted barley from one distillery.
Yep. There can be multiple barrels, but they're all from the same distillery.
Correct.
combined together to create
a lot of people still think single means one barrel, or it means that it's just malt, single malt, right?
Yep.
But we know that that's not the case. Single malt is the product of one distillery, single malted barley, 100%, right?
Yep.
Single grain is the same.
Yes.
It's the product of one distillery, right?
Yep.
But made from grain whiskey, which can be a number of different grains.
When I was at North British getting taken round, it was corn from France, brought in Portaleaf virtually every day of the year. Corn up to
corn, wheat,
Edinburgh. Yep.
Barley. Yep, absolutely. So, okay. Blended whiskey is single malt whiskies blended with single grain whiskey. And a blended malt is, which is what I'm drinking from Berry Brothers and Rudd, is loads of different malts in one bottle, basically.
Love that. I love
Correct?
That. Yes.
Okay, so I want to now ask you this question. You're producing a whiskey on Islay, right? From a distillery on Islay, okay? You're using 55% rye, 45% malted barley, all sourced on Islay. This is this new Bruichladdich product, and hats off to them. I really like it. All sourced on Islay. So the confusing aspect of it is that it's made from a single malt distillery, that's what most people would think that Bruichladdich is a single malt distillery, right?
Yep.
But it has 55% Islay grown rye, 45% Islay malted barley, and it's matured in different types of casks. So everything about it is single malt, apart from the fact it's got 55% rye. So therefore, it is not a single malt. So it is a single grain.
And as soon as you see that, you think of Invergordon, North British, all those big continual columns still.
Correct.
Industrial complexes.
Correct. And this is where the whole system falls down a little bit in my book, is that it would be great to not call that a single grain whiskey, because a single grain whiskey, as you quite rightly said, is generally a spirit made of corn, wheat, with a little bit of malted barley in a continuous system with a strength of about 94%, not a lot of flavour, generally filled into refill bourbon casks and used for blends. However, there are some wonderful single grain whiskies out there made from different varieties of, but generally in column stills, not pot stills.
2009 was the last redefinition of Scotch whisky in that last change of rules.
And I think there needs to be a conversation about this, because I think single malt makes sense. I think blended whiskey makes sense.
Yep.
This product has made me think about the definition of single grain, and I've always had an issue with blended malt. I think that you should have single malt whiskey, which is the product of one distillery, and you should just have malt whiskey, which is the product of many distilleries, but it's all made from malt. That deals with malted barley whiskey. Then you have a product that's made effectively in a single malt whiskey distillery in pot stills, but is classed as the same as a product that is generally considered to be made in column stills and potentially arguably of a lesser quality. It doesn't quite stack up. And so I think there's something needs to be done in this area.
Yeah, I can see that. It's getting quite confusing. It's beginning to sort of blur boundaries, and that's great. I would love to try it.
What they have put in front of it, though, is the word Islay, which I think helps.
Yeah.
So they've called it Islay single grain whiskey, which but I mean, it just doesn't, I think, talk the best way about our products. I think a look at the categories would make sense.
Well, I think a lot of people out with the boundaries of Scotland are experimenting with mash bills. And you really can't do that here if you want to call it a single malt or a blended malt, because and then you look like it's a lesser product, as you say, whereas across out with these strict rules, you can experiment. And very interesting, Gordon. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. No, agreed. And I just think it's something to be something just to say I've got a bit of a thing about it. And I did also mention, I think, David Sturck, who's a a colleague or someone I used to know or do know very well was also talking about this.
No, that's
excellent.
Excellent.
That's got a bit of a rant over.
Good. Well, I want to have your opinion on a couple of things, but I would like to take you to the Baltic. I'd like to take you to Stockholm and onto the Viking Cinderella travel retail whiskey show. I have got wonderful audio from Stewart Buchanan, Forman.
Met his very famous brother recently, but I'll explain that in a second.
His famous brother, by the way, came up in a bit of research. Tobermory release a 25 in the last couple of weeks. And they've also, I think, brought Gordon on to the distillery's books.
Yeah, he's been doing a little bit of work with him. So those who don't know, Gordon Buchanan, the BBC wildlife photographer, was in a big plastic ball with polar bears and things. Fabulous guy. Met him in the street not about 2 weeks ago. Sent Stuart a wee message, and Stuart already messaged him. So yeah, no, nice guy.
Was he filming you, or was he undercover filming?
He wasn't filming me. I mean, to be honest, if I'd been in a bath, maybe a bit better. It looked more of my sort of. I think the point is, for those who don't know, can you just give us a little synopsis of how this show works, because it is a marathon.
It's a marathon. I'm going to take you and I'm going to raise you, because our first guest, Stewart Buchanan, does that.
Okay.
I met up with him. We're going to hear from Sweden's oldest whiskey club, Mr. Finnwhisky, who gave me that Glengoyne 17, Graham Mackay of Ardnamurchan, and Dougal Barr of Douglas Laing, talking about some of the expansion they're doing. And this all happens on a big ship, and Stewart will talk about that right now. Here we go. So here we are. The star of the show, or he was last night. Sir, who am I speaking to, and could you explain what we're looking at?
Certainly, Gordon. My name is Stewart Buchanan, and I am the global brand ambassador for the beautiful Benriach, and also Glendronach and Glenglassaugh, which are both also beautiful.
Absolutely marvellous. How has the Cinderella fair been? Could you explain what actually it is?
It is the craziest fair I think you can ever find, actually, in the whole of the calendar. You're on a boat 4 days, in a car deck as we are now, and that first day you're lucky to get out alive, to be honest, because the thirst for single malts in Sweden is huge. There's almost a race to the stands to get these specialist travel retail editions. And that's quite different, because this is a travel retail show, so it's not domestic, all the kind of airport stuff and all the good GTR.
Yeah. So it's and then 10 o'clock at night, and then do we all go home to hotels, or what? Just explain what happens.
It's a bit, I don't know, there's a time warp that happens on the sea between Sweden and Finland that you lose 5 hours. And I think that happens every year. But normally you get back to bed about maybe 4 or 5 a.m, which is it's pretty standard for this ship.
So the boat actually starts to move after the harbour?
Yep.
Out to international waters?
Yep, well, head to not. And the time changes as well. You lose, I think you gain an hour or lose an hour. So anyway, basically what you do is you throw away your watch and just enjoy it all.
Yeah, so and repeat by 3 times.
Times 3.
So yeah, what has been going well?
To be honest, our 22-year-old triple distillation. So Benriach, we didn't even know we had triple distillation until we kind of researched the warehouses when we first bought a distillery back in 2004, and we stumbled across this code 006, and we didn't know what it meant. So back to the old owners, pulled out the old archives. It seemed that they did triple distillation only 1 year in 1998, so it's pretty special. And 3 cask maturation, virgin oak, bourbon, and sherry. And that just went like hotcakes.
What's the strength?
46.8 on that one. Yeah, we could have sold that all on the first day, but you've got to kind of hold a little bit back for each of the ships. So I think we've only got about 4 bottles left out of the 15 cases that we started with. Absolutely crazy.
And just a word about being a global brand ambassador. I know we've got Gordon Dundas in this show. He is a traveller, but you have been about the place. Could you just paint a picture roughly of your schedule?
Well, this is actually just about a month on the road so far, so I'm getting home to a long bath tomorrow. But yeah, I was in the US for 2 weeks, leaving beginning of February. I was back home for 2 days, really just to have a quick sleep, change my case, then back out to Denmark. So this has been almost a month salt on the road. I'm not too crazy now. It's 50-50. 50 hosting at home, 50 doing the events overseas. But I think at my craziest, back maybe 2015, 16, 17, there were some cases when I was only spending 1 month at home in the whole year, and not even together. So that was pretty crazy, but I love it. You know, if you love what you do, you love your whiskies, it's not a hardship.
And what markets, you said Sweden love their whiskies. How many whisky clubs were here over the last couple of days? But other markets that are very keen for the single malt and Ben Riach and the other whiskies.
Yeah, I like seeing these emerging markets. Like Poland for me is one of my pet markets now, because I've seen it really flourish in the last 8 years. Same as Australia. These two markets have come out of nowhere really and just bombed it. But the other exciting markets, like even like Israel, Tel Aviv is booming. Great whiskey festival there as well. Turkey, that's another great potential one. Cyprus, Greece. All the ones with nice beaches, that's the ones I want to be visiting next.
I was about to say, and my final question, we've done it before on Whisky Unscripted, tips for travellers. If you're an ambassador out there on the road, have you got a Stewart Buchanan tip?
Invest in good shoes.
Yes, we'll leave it there. Stewart, Ben Riach, fantastic, Glengoyne, brilliant whiskies. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Gordon.
Cheers. So, sir, what's your name, and could you explain what club you're from?
We are from Sundsvall. It's a club in middle of Sweden. We are 35 members, and we have been the oldest club in Sweden. Founded in 1991, so it's now 23 years old.
Wow. So who founded it? What's the story?
Mr. Matt Johnson was the guy founding it.
Congratulations. Why did you do it?
Thank you. Oh, what? Well, at the start, I think there were like 15 single malts at the Systembolaget, the national liquor store. But now I think it's like 2,000 or something like that. And we definitely, because we love the Scotch whiskey. And from that we continue and have 11 meetings per year. The first Monday in each month.
And what was the last meeting? What did you sample?
We sampled the cheapest whiskies in the Systembolaget. The total amount for the 4 samples we had was 1,300 crowns Swedish. And it was good whiskey. Good whiskey.
Good whiskey.
Yeah.
And today...
Single malts.
Yeah, all single malts.
Yeah.
And looking round today or yesterday, what's caught your eye in the Cinderella fair?
The variety. It's a lot of small brands coming up. New brands. It's really funny.
And this is a good thing to see the new independents coming forward.
Yeah, especially when you, not independent bottlers, independent producers.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
And lots of Swedish or more Scandinavian?
A lot of Swedish Scandinavian distillers, yes, but also from England and from Scotland and other countries, France, etc.
Excellent. And what's on the agenda? One more. What's it? 1 hour to go. Have you got a game plan today?
Yeah, we are trying small distilleries. That is our plan today. To have small, independent distilleries.
Nice. Give us a shout. What ones? Give us name a couple.
Ardnamurchan. You have your brand. Not that small, but
yes.
It's
independent.
We have tried the Swedish ones, Ven, the High Coast, Kilchoman.
Nice.
We had a 30 years anniversary last year, 2 years ago. We had Kilchoman were visiting us.
Ah, yes.
Exclusive tasting for us, our club.
They're a wonderful family and a wonderful whiskey.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You're welcome up to
I would love to come. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on Whisky Unscripted. And now for your free whiskey.
Thank you.
And we'll have a friend of the show who popped up in a Christmas episode once to wish us all happy Christmas. You are, I think, the acknowledged biggest blogger in Finland.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And here you are in Sweden. What are you doing here? And who are you?
Yeah, nice to meet you all. I'm Juhis Virkola. I write a whiskey blog called Finnwhisky and the Cinderella Whiskey Fair. It's something like that. You have to participate once a year or once in your lifetime as well. And there's just so nice people here and just so nice friends from Scotland here. That's why I'm here. I get some special whiskies here and I enjoy the whiskies and I enjoy the friends. In Sweden and Finland and Norway we have all the monopoly system. In Finland there's Alko and in Sweden there's Systembolaget. They're all the ones that buy the whiskey in the country and they sell to the consumers.
Yes.
But luckily we have the EU area, and we can order from Germany and so on. But it's a little bit harder nowadays because there's EU laws coming on and so on and so on. And the whiskey.
So here on the ship you can get whiskies you can get in the shops.
Yeah, that's true. Right. There are so many special whiskies in the Cinderella Whisky Fair, and that's one big reason to come here, because we love that Scottish distilleries come here and they bottle some special single cask only for the Cinderella Whisky Fair. That's something special. I love that. Yeah.
Very quickly, give us a history. When did you start coming to Cinderella? Give us a small history of the festival.
Actually, this is my first time in the Cinderella Whisky Festival.
No.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You're everywhere.
No, I always. It's so hard when you have 2 kids and so on to come to the Whisky Festival, but I had to do this, and this is nice. I'm really nice that I do this.
This is the first time you've got a box full of whiskies here.
Yeah.
Take us through some of the highlights in that basket of whiskies, because people can fill up a basket, and you're going to buy them now. What's in there? Of highlights. Yeah, that's
quite interesting. I came here to buy Finnish whiskies because there's a Finnish whiskey that we cannot buy in Finland. The Curry Distillery Company, who makes the rye whiskies, they have the special whiskey here. We cannot buy in Finland. I want, of course, that I will have a tasting later with that. And there's Ardnamurchan Distillery with the 14 years old whiskey. That's the oldest whiskey in the Nordics country so far. But also I have to couple distilleries or couple companies. Ian MacLeod, Chieftain Cigar Malt. That's nice. I appreciate quite a lot that you
single malt Chieftains.
Yeah,
Speyside.
That's really nice that you have every year that.
Yep.
But also Angus Dundee with Tommy Dougal and Glengoyne. They had great selection here. They had 3 single casks to choose from. It was really hard to choose those 3, but I had one.
What did you go for?
I had a board pipe. It's for our whiskey club in Finland, and we will be tasting it in a couple months. And I'm very happy that I can bring those whiskies in Finland, and we can taste. Yeah.
Glen Macadam. That's a Tom and Two's a classic.
Yeah,
so that's a port pipe finish.
Port pipe finish. Yeah.
Wow.
They also had a Tony Port finish and a bourbon, like 23 years old. That was excellent whiskey.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And give us a last shout for a couple more.
There's actually one Balmeny. My friend Yuri from Finland, who's actually imported from Balmeny in Finland, he asked me to bring one whiskey because they cannot get in Finland. Yeah. That's a really big problem that we cannot get whiskies to Finland because the Brexit and also the Finnish markets are a little bit smaller than the Swedish markets, so that's a problem. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you.
You too.
And great to see. And that's what this is about, meeting friends.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's been great, back to full capacity.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
And I'm sorry we missed you last night in the bar.
No worries.
We'll catch you again very shortly. Juhis, Mr. Finnwhisky, thank you very much for talking to us.
You too.
Hello, I'm Graham Mackay. I'm here from Ardnamurchan and Adelphi. So I'm in the sales team and I do the blending for Ardnamurchan as well.
Oh, nice.
So brand new distillery, built in 2014, owned by Adelphi, which is now 30 years old this year. So we're out on the extreme west coast, between Mull and Skye, in the middle of nowhere, to be fair. And beautiful spot, trying to make a nice west coast maritime whiskey, bit funky, bit farmhousey.
And so what we're looking at,
so we've got our core one here, which is 50-50 peated and unpeated. We've got our brand new Madeira cask, which we just launched at the fair here on the ship. And then we've got our cask strength, so that's more heavily peated, more bourbon, more booze.
Yeah. How's it been? How's the fair been?
Oh, it's something else, isn't it? I don't think there's anything else like this in the world, as far as I can tell. So it's been great. In Sweden, the whiskey community is so strong. Whiskey clubs everywhere, and a nice mix of big hardcore fans already, and then people that haven't heard of us.
And looking forward in the near future for Ardnamurchan, what's the plans?
Yeah, we've got some nice new plans this year, some sherry things coming, another champagne release that we do every year as well. So we're just getting started really, 2.5 years in terms of releases, so big plans this year.
Brilliant. Graham, thank you very much for joining us on Whisky Unscripted.
Yeah, my pleasure, Gordon.
Great.
Thanks.
Take care. Okay, here we are, Saturday nights, with a few a couple of hours out from the end of the fair. Sir, what's your name?
I am Dougal Barr.
Of?
Douglas Laing.
Douglas Laing, fantastic whiskey. What's on your stand? What's going well?
So, like we would expect, Big Peach is of course doing well. But on the stand we have got our travel retail exclusive range. Everything bottled at 48% ABV, natural colour, non-chill filtered, and that elevated 1 litre bottling. On the stand we have got our full Remarkable Regional Malt series. We're looking at our Lowlands, our Epicurean, our Timor's Beastie, our Highlands, our Speyside, our big sherry influence here with the Scallywag, our Galdrons, the one we're quite excited about to have some Campbelltown liquid, through to our Rock Island, our Islands marriage, finishing with Big Peach and our Isla. So
when you're Douglas Laing, you really need to know a lot about the different categories and different styles.
Yeah, for sure.
Ourselves, we make a whiskey and we sell the whiskey, but you guys need to be across all the regions.
Absolutely, yeah. Generally, wear a lot of different hats, so definitely know a little bit about everyone rather than super in depth about every individual distillery. So definitely, keeps you on your toes.
Scallywag looks lovely. If you've never tried some of these whiskies, it's great artwork on the
absolutely.
Just explain or paint a picture.
Yeah, so certainly, I think our branding is very fresh. It's very modern. We are not tartan and bagpipes. We're certainly a little bit opposite of that. But yeah, very modern take on Scotch whisky for sure. So trying to produce, if someone has never seen a Scotch whisky before, never tried a certain style, the regional malts is where they step into it. They come in, they can say, oh, this is a typical classic style Lowland, or typical classic style. Interrupted even for water in the podcast, I know.
That's brilliant, this is live. And I know you're very busy. Quick words about Douglas Laing and the new builds, moving the offices, just explain roughly what's happening.
We're kind of taking the next big step with Douglas Laing. So most people have always known us either for the regional malts or the independent bottling. We also have our Strathearn, our single malt, coming out this year. Super small batch, one of the smallest distilleries in the country that we're looking forward to. We now have our campus project at Hillington, just outside of Glasgow, good to go. So we now have our own bottling line, we've got warehousing, new headquarters, new sample room, new archive, and it will in the future be the site of our Glasgow distillery as well. So
all in Hillington?
All in Hillington with our huge campus project. So fully up and running, big exciting time for Douglas Laing.
That's absolutely fantastic, Dougal. Thank you so much for that. And the final question I would ask is, what time last night?
I think it was around 3:45.
He's still as fresh as a daisy.
Always.
Yeah, thanks, Dougal. All the best. Thanks, Douglas.
Well, that's a...
I survived it. I did survive.
How many meatballs did you eat?
It's... I think something, if you can avoid self-sabotage, it is very good. But the masterclasses that we did, full every night, which is wonderful. And certainly on the last night, there's one or two people that had enjoyed themselves maybe a little bit too much and fell asleep.
So what I want to know is, on day one, when it starts, there's a huge queue, and there's a queue on every day, and people always run to a stand to get something. So I remember when I was working with Beam Suntory, they all came running to get some Bowmores or a Yamazaki or something that we had. And I know last year our Chieftains was exceptionally popular and sold out, was the most top selling whiskey there. How about this year? What did you notice people running to, apart from you, obviously, Gordon?
Exactly. I did notice a seller of whiskey from Sweden, and they had a phalanx of guys, 8, 9 of them lined up, sort of bouncing types, and they had some Springbank 8-year-old. Oh. And there was an absolute stampede to get it. So you had to get into the fair and then make for it, and these guys made sure you get funneled into a single line, so first come, first serve. You couldn't jump. It was quite an operation.
I take it you were standing there holding a couple of bottles of Chieftains and they ran over you, did they? Or
that's right. Just putting wee glasses all the way to the stands, all this boys and girls. So it was great. But listen, what came out of that conversation there? For me, this, as you may have heard, the Sundsvalle Whisky Club, that day we're just wanting to go around this small independents. And I thought it's quite a nice conversation, Gordon, just as, maybe 20 years ago, you would not be having this conversation. But now, looking at the independents, not just in Sweden and Finland, but even in Scotland now, there's a lot of those new independent distilleries, not bottlers, but now distillers.
I think it's look. There's a few things to think about here. I mean, I think the influence of independence, and you look at people like Kilhoman, you look at people like Ardnamurchan, you look at people like Daftmill and these kinds of guys, slightly smaller, obviously. They're adding to a very rich tapestry of Scotch whisky. I think they're innovating. They're doing things that are very interesting. And look, I think when you have really good people behind them, then it's a fantastic addition to the to the category. So
what I liked about it was the people are embracing them, not just in Cinderella, but at other festivals. That people are not saying, "Oh, you're new. I don't know you." There seems to be a real embracing of something 3, 4, 5-year-olds and a new distillery. There's not a them and us, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. No, there isn't. And look, I think everything goes side by side. And what I mean by that is that, we now know that maybe Glengoyne is your favorite whiskey, as it flipping should be, because it's fantastic. But that doesn't mean that's all you drink, and I think 20 years ago, that was probably a little bit different, Yeah. And now those new distilleries just add that depth and add that ability to try something new and a reason to drink it. Lochlee, totally farm to glass, producing great whiskey,
Yeah. And I just had a wee look down some of the independents. I didn't actually realise Robert Burns, our national bard, addressing the haggis and the Auld Lang Syne, actually worked and lived on the farm that Lochlee sits on.
I didn't know that either.
Neither did I. There you go. Because this is where whiskey began, in farmhouses 200-300 years ago. And
Glengoyne was the same.
We're seeing that again. Yes.
Glengoyne was Burnfoot Farm. It's where it's absolutely. And look, the big guys. Let's not. And we sit, we're the 9th biggest producer of Scotch whisky in the world. We're not small, but we're not the big guys. And I think, the big guys do a great job. They do a great job pushing out whiskey. They produce some absolute belters as well, undoubtedly. But they plow their furrow and they do what they do, and they do it well, But it's the little guys that benefit from the big guys' work as well that are bringing. So the big guys bringing people into the category. Even things like the Johnny Walker experience, making people think more about whiskey. Forget the categories we've just spent hours or minutes talking about. It's just a great time to be a whiskey drinker in terms of, the diversity in that sort of 40 to 80 pound mark is huge.
And I would love to speak more about that. You've got a challenge coming up very shortly.
Love a challenge.
Just to say, on Sky, by the way, Gordon, I was tasked as well putting a cocktail together. This will lead to the challenge. And we had the Six Isles, which is a blended malt.
Hold on. Have you just dropped in there you've been on Sky?
Yes.
Why?
The beautiful.
What were you doing on Sky? What were you doing on Sky?
Oh, God, it was a great place to go. If you've never been, Hebrides of Scotland, top left on the map. There's now a bridge linking it to the mainland, but it's iconic, it's legendary, featured in many, many movies. Think of Game of Thrones meets House of Dragons. It's like that.
Stardust.
Yes, of course. What a movie. And we were filming up there, doing sort of promotional videos for Isle of Skye whiskey, which we, as a blended whiskey, Scotch blended whiskey, grain and malts, since that's the sort of theme of the show. And it starts at 8 and goes up to 30 years old. Unbelievable. King Robert, we do a whiskey as well, another blended whiskey. That's a great one for the export market. And Six Isles, doing a bit of filming for Six Isles.
Six Isles.
And we were asked,
a blended malt from 6 different islands.
It's really
fabulous.
You got a Skye whiskey, Jura, Islay, Orkney, Arran, Mull, all in the one bottle. And that was also on Cinderella. So that ties in. But we're up in the Skye doing some films, and they asked me to make a cocktail with it. I thought, there's that, So I had a very good sort of trial out every night, making the cocktails, and came across one that we kind of worked quite well with smoky whiskies. In my whiskey book, it was called a Presbyterian or a Press. Very simple, because that's what the brief was. This is like a highball, but it's got soda water, ginger ale, a lemon wedge to garnish, and some whiskey. So usually it's either or, the ginger or the soda, and just a little dash of coconut water. Really brought up some of the tropicality of that whiskey. Wonderful. And then a couple of pages on, there was the mint julep, which I didn't make. But I just love the history of it. Really, it's a symbol of the American South. It's the official drink of the Kentucky Derby horse race. I know you've been to Kentucky.
I've not been to the Derby, but I've been to Kentucky probably about 20 times in my life.
Okay, so 1938 was the first time it was the official drink. It says up to about 120,000 juleps are consumed over the Churchill Downs every weekend.
Yep.
During the Kentucky Derby. It's descended from the word julep, which is made with water and rose petals. But the modern julep dates back to the 1700s, and the silver or pewter julep cup. I don't know if you drank one of that. That's key to the drink. Glass is an insulator, so a proper julep cup gets icy on the outside.
Yeah, it's like a sort of copper cup.
Yes. Spearmint is the go-to down south. Peppermint will work. It just gets better and better as you sip it. And I was thinking, Gordon, that drink is so synonymous with the Kentucky Derby. Is there a little challenge I could do that would connect alcoholic beverages with sports? And I come up with the Grape or Grain Challenge. Are you ready for this, Gordon? I have got 10 sportsmen. All I need you to do, and those listening at home, is work out, is it wine they're connected to, or is it a spirit? Is it grape or grain? And the spirit can be anything. So, Gordon, here we go.
Oh, no. Right, okay.
Andy Roddick. I'm going to get my little...
Andy Roddick.
Is he great or is he grain?
Andy Roddick, tennis player. Won Wimbledon. I think he is grape.
Oh, you've just missed. He is grain. He's got Sweeten's Cove bourbon. So, 1-0 to me. Here's a nice one for you, Gordon. Conor McGregor, the fighter. Conor McGregor.
Definitely grain.
It is grain. 12 notorious Irish whiskey.
I've tasted it, and Conor, I'm afraid it doesn't float my boat.
Would you say that to his face?
No, I wouldn't. But,
okay.
No.
We're on to Mr. Greg Norman, the White Shark, as he was called, the Great White Shark, as he was called.
He's definitely grape.
He is grape. The Greg Norman Wine Estates, founded in 1996, and international recognised 10 varietals he's got.
I'm not sure anybody drinks it in the golfing world these days, because he's managed to split the golfing world down the middle.
He has actually.
But no, he's definitely grape.
Okay, that's 2-1 to.
He's also got a clothing line, is he not?
Yes, I've got his shoes, his golf shoes. Dennis Rodman, the bad boy of basketball. Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman likes a cigar. He was a bad boy. Yeah, he was. Was he not in Big Brother over here as well? Wasn't he?
Was he? I just remember him going to South Korea, North Korea. Sorry, it's not. I
think he's got to be grain.
Grain, bad boy vodka. Boom, Gordon, you're on a roll. You are on a roll. Let's
go. Is that the brand, Bad Boy Vodka?
Yes. 2013, part of the premier brands to launch Bad Boy Vodka. Although I don't think it lasted that long. It says Jack Nicklaus. Now what a giant in the world of golf. Jack Nicklaus. I've got a picture of him here. Grape or grain?
So, grape.
Grape is the correct answer. California, Napa Valley. He's in partnership with Terlato Wines. Wow.
I have been to the Napa Valley. Fabulous.
That's love to go, Gordon.
It was great. It was great. Get somebody to drive you around all day. And thanks to Alex Bruce, if he's listening, for that. Anyway.
Speaking of Adelphi, we did earlier on. Jensen Button, Formula One. Grape or grain?
He's grain, is he not?
He is grain. He is. Coach Built, blended Scotch whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whiskey from all 5 whiskey producing regions, Isla, Spacey, Campbell Highlands, and Lowlands. Nice guy.
I mean, you could say, I like Jensen. One of the interesting thing about Jensen Button, generally considered the smoothest in terms of his style.
Yes.
Driver ever in Formula One. Very good.
LeBron James, basketball legend. Grape or grain?
Grape.
Oh, two to me. Tequila and mezcal. Lobos 1707. Nick Faldo, grape or grain? We'll get 3 more to go. Nick Faldo.
He's got to be grape.
He is grape. And a big range of wines. 6-time major champion. He launches wine label in 2000. Katnook Estate Vineyards in Australia. All Australia. And ice hockey. I know you've been to Canada recently. Wayne Gretzky.
Whiskey.
Wayne Gretzky is... It's a winery here. Wayne Gretzky Estates Winery in the spring of 2017. The all-new Wayne Gretzky Estates Winery. My goodness, I could go on and on, but there you go. And finally, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Is it grape or is it grain?
Grain. Oh,
you
my
are
Lord.
Correct, Gordon. Terramana Tequila.
Did I win that?
Yeah, let's call it a score draw, Gordon. It's there's more in that. Score draw. Grape or grain. So that was good challenge.
Absolutely. Now, Gordon, I know that you were in Germany relatively recently.
That's right.
And you met some gentlemen that are coming to Spirit of Speyside, and some of the very lucky people who are going to get a tour of the mystical, untourable Tamdhu.
This is it. This is exactly, the excitement was mounting. That was in Hamburg at the Hansa Spirits, and I think it was day one. People made it way to their, and they had the tickets. That's what I love about it. You don't take those very special, very expensive tickets that you need to have to come to Scotland with you to a whiskey festival when you'll be sampling all day. I said, please keep them very, very, very safe. But they're coming to do what is the Tamdhu Maltmaster during the Speyside Festival. So, and we had George McNeil on in our answer machine last episodes talking about just the ticket sales have been wonderfully through the roof. So it's going to be a white hot festival this year.
It's absolutely. It's people desperate to go around Tamdhu and see all the other distilleries as well.
Just tell us, even just not Tamdhu, this will, how quickly did that Maltmaster sell out?
I think it was an hour. One of the first events to sell out was the Tamdhu Maltmaster. So the lucky people that are attending, they're going to get a bottle of Dalby Alley, but they're also going to make their own little sample of Tamdhu to take away. That's something really special using American oak, sherry cask Oloroso, European oak, and refills, and make your own style, and we'll have a wee blending session. So that's going to be great. And then the tours with yourself, touring people around the distillery so you can enjoy the avocado mill room.
And I think what's great about doing the tours at Tamdhu, people have genuinely no idea what to expect. It's just not open to the public. You know, unless you were there in the 70s, it started as a visitor centre, 76. I believe sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, it closed down. We've had one or two people that had been in the 80s, 90s, but most people have no idea what to expect. And as you said earlier on, we're all mucking in. The brand director is there. Pouring drink.
Oh, absolutely.
You're there moving chairs and tables. We don't have, you know.
No, we are what we are. So if it's generally, we get there okay. It's a little rough around the edges apparently, but it's well, no, it's not actually. It's great, and we have great food, and that's great. So no, good. We're can't wait. About just over a month till everybody arrives at the Spirit of Speyside. I can't believe it's around here again. That's amazing. Another bit of distillery update news is obviously now a lot of people come to Glengoyne obviously during the summer. Glengoyne is a just fabulous distillery, obviously, but there's something happening in July, isn't there? The distillery is actually going to be. We're not going to have a still house. We're putting on a new roof. This section is sponsored by Price Roofing. It's a friend of mine whose business I think is doing the roof. So we're not going to be doing standard tours for the whole of July. You've been working pretty hard on the experiences that we'll be offering. Yes. And do you want to just do a bit of summary on that? Well, I think it's great because I've been, and I do, if you go to the Glengoyne website, one of my first jobs as the experiential ambassador was to put together a non-process tour, the storytelling tour at Glengoyne. So we're just taking little bits of that. What I think is going to be quite exciting, there will be 3 or 4 options you can choose from. One will be the teapot dram tour. And the teapot dram, if you can look for it, search for it, it's a
iconic special edition from Glengoyne. Started from the dramming days when they got a tot of whiskey 3 times a day, ended up in a teapot. Ian McLeod distillers thought, what would that teapot be like? Oh, all that malt whiskey. Let's try and recreate it. And my goodness, each edition of the teapot dram, about 3,000 bottles, sell out. Wonderful sherry whiskey, unchilled, filtered, undiluted. We will be doing a version of that story. You'll be hearing about it. You'll understand all about where it came from, how it all came to be, and then you will be drinking it as well. So that's great. And I'll be helping put together really the story of Glengoyne. Some of the great, we can't go through all of it in 45 minutes or an hour, but we will be picking out some of the highlights, the 5 people that have shaped Glengoyne. And when I take people on the storytelling tour, Gordon, I say, yes, this is about our distillery, but my goodness, every distillery in Scotland started generally as a farm, and there was owners and they passed it on. Everyone has got a great story. This is ours. And we have got 5 Scottish families independently owning Glengoyne. Some very colourful characters employed, some drowned, some then they decided to haunt the house. We have a ghost, and we've got lots of other interesting stories about it's just a little peel back.
That's fabulous.
The story of Glengoyne.
No, it's fabulous, and it's like come and hear the stories rather than look at stills and do all that. Fabulous. And then we've got a little update on Rosebank. Rosebank is approaching spirit time, so it's been a little slow in the last 6 months, but I think we are not far off a spirit being produced. Probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks, six to 6, something like that, 6 weeks, I would hope, which is going to be momentous for us. We're very excited about that, and Malcolm will play with the different aspects of the spirit production, temperatures and flow rates, and types of barley, and yeasts and all that type of thing, which is very exciting. So that's beginning to move, which is just hugely exciting, isn't it?
And just on that point, Gordon, just to tie it to the earlier part of the episode, a big shout out to Scott Jackson, who you've met. He has 400 Rosebanks in his collection. We think one of the biggest collectors of Rosebank in the world. He was on Cinderella with some guys. They love it so much they flew from Scotland just to be there in Cinderella. So
fabulous.
We were chatting about Rosebank. He lives round the corner. There was other guys there from the local area, really keen to talk about Rosebank, even though we had none to pour them, and just chat. So it was a nice night with them as well. So shout out to these guys, and we will be seeing you very soon. The doors open.
Fabulous. Great. So a bit of a distillery update. Obviously, this year as well, we have Islay from our perspective. Lagan Bay. So anybody who's been to Islay, just opposite the airport, is where we're going to break ground, I think, fairly shortly as well. So it's a busy year here at Ian McLeod for sure.
And that'll be replicated across the industry, Gordon. We heard from Dougal there just saying that Douglas Laing, the took over Strathern, and they will be putting a distillery in the Hillington complex. And if you don't know, he mentions it, but it's near Glasgow Airport as well.
Yeah, on the way to Glasgow Airport, yeah. Well, I mean, Strathern, I think they fill a cask a day.
Yeah.
Pretty small. Fisher price, but lovely, and gives the opportunity to do stuff. So that's excellent. So lots of exciting things going on. What other any other just things to summarise before we...
No, I'll be heading out, and there's a lot of people on the road, a lot of our friends, all of the ambassadors heading out on the roads. Nuremberg is happening very shortly, Gordon. That's a big festival as well. I'm going to Switzerland on that lake. Lovely. So,
you're going to Lucerne, yes.
People are heading to Vilnius as well. So the whiskey, bandwagons around Europe are rocking and rolling.
What a great episode. Great to hear from all those guys on the Cinderella.
Yes, absolutely, Gordon. And we will catch you very soon. I'm going to raise my glass of 17 and say Slanjiva.
Doing it this way since 1833. Staying ahead on the whiskey trail. Oh, staying ahead on the whiskey trail.